Hey buddies, Mr. Puggy here, coming at you in another Wonderlands video. Today I want to show you the items that are going to be in the Chaos Chamber's vending machines for this week. The items are going to be obviously at the end of the Chaos Chamber, so all you need to do is complete the entirety of the Chaos Chamber, and then there's going to be 3 vending machines with each their own legendary as well as some other items as well. You could sell the items you got in your Chaos Chamber if you'd like, or even sell the items that you got from the Chaos Bunnies. There's going to be an amulet, a armor piece, and a melee weapon for this week. The amulet is going to be the Blaze of Glory. Now the Blaze of Glory I honestly don't think is really that great. Of course it gives you some utility to get you back out of Save Your Soul. It makes your Save Your Soul duration deplete 50% faster, so it's kind of a more detriment than a beneficial to you. Next we have the Selective Amnesia. Now the Selective Amnesia is one of the better armor pieces in the game for movement based builds. There's a couple ways that allows you to constantly get the movement based damage that we'll talk about a little bit later, but definitely pick this up, especially if you're Graveborn, and I'll explain why in a little bit. And finally we have the Mage Staff. Now the Mage Staff, every time you swing it, it's going to create 3 fissures. Now I personally think that the Mage Staff isn't that great. Even if you try to optimize it, the damage is only okay, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of these items, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch on the top right. You have no idea how much helps me out. And let's get into the video.
Legendary? Whoa! No way, dude!
Now before I show you what actually every single item can do, I do want to show you that if you wait long enough and wait for the timer, like the 20-minute timer for the item of the day to reset, your items will actually reset. But this does take about 20 minutes, and normally a Chaos Chamber for me takes around 10 minutes or less, so it's not necessarily the most efficient. But if you want to theoretically AFK farm the vending machines, you could in theory do that. The Blaze of Glory I have here is Stabbomancer and Lightning, and the one we had earlier was Poison and Brrzerker. The Selective Amnesia is now different. Originally it was a Spore, Warden, and Stabbomancer, but now it's a Clawbringer Stabbomancer, and the Mage Staff is also different. So keep that in mind if you want to, in theory, AFK farm this, if you want to go like make some dinner and then come back and see if you have better loot or something. So first things first, let's talk about the Blaze of Glory. Now the Blaze of Glory is an amulet that has a special effect that upon entering a fight for your life, you will automatically reload your gun and deal 30% bonus fire damage. I'm going to demonstrate this with a launcher. It has a decent magazine size, so when we go into fight for our life, we're going to instantly reload our magazine. And then since this is a kinetic launcher, it is not supposed to deal fire, so of course we're going to deal fire when we actually go into fight for our life. And then I'm going to down myself with it. So it turns out that you can't actually down yourself with this launcher, so instead I'm going to use this torque pistol to down myself real quick. As you see here, my bullet count on the bottom right is 2, and then it instantly went back to 5. Now this is a cryo gun, so I'm going to shoot there, and you can see that it is dealing fire damage, but you can barely kind of see it because in fight for your life you kind of get into this like dark mode, but you can kind of see that the damage numbers was red, and our fight for life duration went down like that. So keep that in mind, that you do get a benefit of reloading your guns and getting bonus fire damage, but you're going to get down pretty quickly, so I don't really think it's that worth it. Blaze of Glory isn't anything special. It comes in every single class and every single element. It's not one of those particular ones that only comes in like gun damage or something like that, so it's just a standard amulet. Next, let's talk about the Mage Staff. Now the Mage Staff is a gorgeous looking melee weapon, but unfortunately it doesn't deal that much damage, unless of course you optimize spell damage, because this Mage Staff is going to send fissures that deal weapon elemental damage that is also spell damage, but it will also be splash damage. So if you have area effect bonuses, you will get a little bit of bonuses to the damage of the Mage Staff. Now the Mage Staff can come in kinetic, fire, and dark magic, so technically only 2 elements, so that's a bit unfortunate, but whichever one you have, that will determine the element of the fissures that gets sent out. So you just melee, and then you're going to send out a couple of fissures just like that. So I'm going to go over to this crab. Since this is a kinetic Mage Staff, I'm going to melee, and you'll notice that the damage number is just white. I do have a corrupted plate mail on, which means that we're seeing dark magic as well, but just ignore that for this demonstration. And it is able to knock up the enemies pretty far. It can send up to 3 fissures, but the damage is going to be split between the 3 fissures, which makes each fissure deal only around 36.6 total weapon damage, which is a bit unfortunate. Since it is able to deal spell damage, keep that in mind. So if you want to optimize spell damage and maybe use a paradigm to also increase your melee damage, you could increase the total damage of the melee weapon like that. But otherwise, it's nothing too phenomenal. I think it's very fun. It's very fun to play around with. but it definitely could use a buff. And then finally, we have the best thing here, which is the Selective Amnesia. Now, the Selective Amnesia, every single time you take non-status effect damage, you're going to apply status effect dot to your Fate Maker, which increases your movement speed and leaves a fire trail. Now, the card says the damage is going to be increased by your movement speed, which makes you think that the faster you move, the more damage you're going to actually do with the Selective Anima, but that is incorrect. Its damage is going to be calculated based on the total movement speed you have that is benefiting your character. Say if you have 20% more movement speed, you're going to get 20% all damage dealt to everything in your damage formula, which is excellent. Which means you could be standing still, have that free movement speed increase, and still be dealing a hefty amount of damage by just standing still, which is excellent. It works similar to the Red Helen, if you guys aren't familiar with that. A nifty trick that the community has found out with the Selective Anima, besides damaging yourself with a low-level gun, you could actually spec into Graveborn and use Reaper Bones. Now, Reaper Bones is slowly going to drain your HP, which means during the whole duration during your Reaper Bones, you're going to have Selective Anima up at all times, which allows you to deal large damage if you have a build that allows you to get lots of movement speed. Now, the Buffmeister increase your movement speed, so you're going to, of course, get a lot of your damage by just activating Buffmeister, which increases your movement speed by 80%, thus allowing you to get a free 80% all damage dealt, which is excellent. So I'm going to activate Reaper Bones. You're going to notice magma piles are going to show behind my character, but I'm going to have that extra movement speed, which is very, very nice. Now, the extra movement speed that the fire trail gives you, now I believe reading somewhere that the Selective Amnesia does give you around 20 to 30% more movement speed while you have this active, so I'm not really sure if that's accurate, but that's very nice. Now, because of this Reaper Bone setup, you could, in theory, allow yourself to get the damage buff for a long duration. So definitely pick this up if you're a Graveborn, or just to try it out if you have a movement speed build that increases your movement speed in general, but you don't even have to worry about that because your total damage is going to be increased even by standing still, which is just crazy. I was a little bit tempted, honestly, not to really show the Reaper Bones trick because I was planning a build around it, but I'll just say this now, the build will probably come out in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that when I optimize the Selective Amnesia with the Reaper Bones. And as always, a big shout out to the members who make these videos possible. We have Jace Noodles, Clairvoyance, Rick Inglesias, Josh Dig, 31 Bar 70, Grave Wolf, Wishkeeper, and Super Noob. These are the people who support me as little as $5 a month, and you can also support me as little as $5 a month by clicking the link in the comments description or in the top right to become a member. The more members we have, the closer I get to becoming full-time, which means more videos for you guys. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.